Okay, so we're going to do a 14 muscle dance. That means we'll go through all the movements of the 14 muscles, but because we're moving those muscles and they're related to energy pathways, we're going to get energy flowing in those energy pathways just because we're doing the movements. So it's a nice energizers, it's a nice tune-up. Of course, you're getting a little tiny bit of physical exercise by moving the muscles, but you're also getting energy flowing in all the major energy pathways. So the first one is this movement, and it's the supraspinatus muscle up here. It's kind of a deep muscle under upper trapezius, so you want to feel it deep in the top of the shoulder there as you do the movement, and it continues to contract all the way up to here, so you might feel it coming all the way up to here, but then when we test it, and right now we want to tune into it more specifically in this shorter range of motion to keep the deltoid muscles from taking over all the work. So that's why we test it in this short range of motion. So the meridian related to the supraspinatus muscle is central meridian, which we just zip right up the front here. And maybe you do this dance and you start memorizing some of your reflex points too. So NeuroLymphatic point would be right here next to the shoulder. But just the basic muscle dance, you don't have to throw in the reflex points, but it's a nice way to help tune up the muscles and start to memorize your specific reflex points. But it's enough just to do this movement and notice how it feels. And then the next one is the teres major muscle. So this is a muscle that's attaching to the shoulder blade and coming across and attaching to the arm. It's going to help rotate the arm in, pull the elbows back. And the technical name that we use for this muscle test is chicken wings. So you can call this one chicken wings to help you remember, or if the dinosaur names help you remember, we call this one teres major. And it's related to the governing meridian that starts at the tailbone, comes up the spine, straight up the center, over the top, and ends just above the upper lip. And then, of course, we can also add in some of the reflex points, rub the reflex points, and check how the muscle is feeling again. So then it becomes even a check and balance of the muscle as we also start to memorize the related points. And then the next one, we're going to go through this range of motion. And we're using the pec muscle to help lift the arm. This is the part that attaches to the clavicle and comes across and attaches to the humerus here. So we call it pectoralis because pectoralis has to do with chest muscles here, and it's a big one, so we call it major, and it attaches to the clavicle, so claviculars. So pectoralis major clavicular, you want to feel it contracting as you raise your arm up and in, and then the test range would be to push it down and out. So we always start in the contracted position, or as much contracted as we can to keep it isolated from other muscles, and then we push down and out. So you always have that yin and yang possibility of the muscle test, the contraction and then the extension of the muscle. So this is pectoralis major clavicular. We relate that one to stomach meridian that goes from the face down the front of the body to the feet. Next one, we hold our arms in tight here. We're using a large muscle on the back and the sides of the body, and its Latin name basically says that, large muscle on the back and sides of the body. Latissimus is side, isthmus is big, and dorsi is on the back. So latissimus dorsi is the muscle we're using here, and it's pretty universal. When you get into this position, it looks kind of like a penguin position. So often people call it the penguin. We relate it to the spleen meridian, so sometimes we even call it splinguin. So do this range of motion, notice how that feels. That's latissimus dorsi related to spleen, and spleen comes from the feet, passes the armpit, and comes halfway down the rib cage. Next one is in this scarecrow position with the arms here. Now, textbook is to have this straight across here, but if you have to really lift your shoulder to raise the arm up, that's not really a relaxed position. So just bring your arms up to where it's comfortable, and then we'll do this range of motion because we're just lifting the arm to isolate it a little bit from teres major and teres minor. So it doesn't have to be 90-degree angle here. Just comfortably up, and then we'll do this range of motion like this. So this muscle is underneath the scapula. It's a very hidden and protected muscle. So in Latin, under the scapula is subscapularis. So we call it the subscapularis muscle. And that hidden muscle is related to a hidden protected organ, which is inside the rib cage and wrapped inside the lungs, which is the heart. So we relate this one to the heart meridian and the heart organ. And you can just do this range of motion both at the same time or one at a time, and just tune into how that is feeling. And then now, and the heart meridian goes from the armpit to the pinky. So my Aunt Alice told me, tickle me pink, from armpit to pinky. So armpit to pinky here for heart meridian. And then, of course, I started learning to do this muscle dance or memorizing these muscle movements when I was about 9. So I have some silly associations to help me remember. So my fingers are pointed down. That reminds me I'm going to move down to the legs. The next muscle is a leg muscle. Quadriceps muscle is going to help me lift my legs up like this. And the name of quadriceps means 4 heads. So it's actually 4 endings of this muscle. So because it's different fibers attaching different places, there's multiple functions associated with the muscle. So the main one we look at, and for years we test the muscle just by pushing down like this, but also some of the fibers attach below the knee, so that's going to help me extend. So you can do this dance just by doing this, like stair stepping and mountain climbing, but it can also be extending the foot and kicking. So it can be a snap kick like this also, or whatever that feels like, extending and snapping. Of course, when I saw the muscle test itself, it looked like stomping down, like stomping and insisting on something. And so that's quadriceps, and it's related to small intestine. And the small intestine also starts on the small finger where heart ends, and it comes up the back of the arm to the cheekbone and back to the ear. So quadriceps is on the small intestine meridian. And after we stomp, we're going to use a small muscle on the side of the leg. It's called the peroneus. It's going to help us do 3 things actually, the way we test in Touch for Health. Lift the foot up, bring it out to the side, and also tilt the foot or pronate the foot. And then we'll push it back down and in with a little bit of a rotation. So up and out and down and in. So that's the peroneus muscle. And sometimes when we do this foot tapping, it looks kind of like I'm standing outside of a room impatient to relieve my bladder. So you could even call it the pee-pee dance to help you remember it's related to bladder meridian. And small intestine ended on the face, so I'm back on the head. Bladder meridian is going to go from the head to the feet, but it's going to go down the back of the body. So after bladder meridian comes the kidney meridian, and we do this kicking motion for kidney meridian. So we're going to use the psoas muscle to help lift the leg up like this. So we'll bring it out 45 degrees, rotate the foot out, and we'll push out and back. If you can balance on one foot, you can try that range of motion. If your energy is in balance, it's usually easier to do. So if you find that real difficult or painful, you might stop and just do your NeuroLymphatic point related to psoas muscle, kidney meridian. So the psoas attaches to the leg and it goes under the abdominal muscles, and it actually wraps around the whole lumbar spine. So even though we're testing it as a leg test, and that's how we're tuning into it, it's a very important low back muscle. So it will also help you to do this bowing motion, and between using it as a leg flexor muscle and this bowing trunk flexor muscle, there's also, it helps to pull the low back because it wraps around the lumbar spine. Create that curve in the low back. So if you have a flat back and have pain in the back, it's important to check the psoas muscle. So as you do this, tune into your leg and how it feels, but also tune into low back for psoas muscle. And it's this kicking motion, and we relate it to kidney meridian. So you could call it the kidney meridian. And notice how it feels if you've rubbed your points or you've just been practicing it. Does it get easier to do? Following kidney meridian, we have circulation sex meridian. We're going to use the muscles right here that attach all along the hip bone. Those are the gluteus medius muscles, and they help bring the legs straight to the side. So do that movement straight to the side. And we relate that one to the circulation sex meridian. often called pericardium. In Touch for Health we call it the circulation sex meridian, and that goes from beside the nipple out to the middle finger. Okay, so that's gluteus medius for a circulation sex meridian. And now we're going to move back up to the arms. You could call this one the W, or the small hug. But the muscle that helps do this external rotation is also coming from the back of from the shoulder blade to the back of the arm, but it's going to help rotate out. Teres minor does the external rotation. Teres major does this internal rotation and chicken wing movement. So we'll do the external rotation, and then we'll push it to the midline like you're giving yourself a little hug or you're trying to warm yourself up. And thinking of warming yourself up might help you remember this is on what's called the triple warmer meridian. So we'll start on the ring finger, come from the ring finger to the ear ring, behind the ear, and end at the eyebrow ring. So triple warmer has 3 rings: ring finger, ear ring, and end at eyebrow ring. And we're back on the head with the meridians. So after teres minor triple warmer, we go to what might be the most familiar muscle test because it's used so much as an indicator muscle just to indicate various things. That's the anterior deltoid muscle. So it's just right here on the front of the arm. It's convenient to give it a little pinch to inhibit it, or a little lengthening to strengthen. And we can just do this movement to feel it on both sides. And that anterior deltoid muscle we relate to the gallbladder meridian. And gallbladder meridian goes from the sides of the head, down the sides of the body, and out the small toe. And after gallbladder meridian, we move on to liver meridian. We're going to use the pecs again, but now we're going to use the part of the pecs that attaches to the sternum. So if I do this, bringing the arm down and in, I can feel it bunching up next to the sternum. So this is pectoralis major sternal. So we can do this movement like this. So up and out is the extension of the muscle, and down and in is the contraction of the muscle. So this would be the beginning of the test position, and then we'd push up and out. But you can just do the range of motion back and forth and notice how it feels. That's also a way to tune into the muscle, help getting the energy flowing in the muscle and in the related energy circuit. That is for liver meridian. And liver meridian also starts on the toes, comes up the inside of the legs. This goes lateral on the rib cage and halfway up. Then we're going to move on to lung meridian. And it's not really important which way my hand is rotated for this, but I like to do it with the thumb up because the lung meridian comes out the thumb. So thumb up for lung. The important thing is extend the shoulder and then chop. So some people call it shaking hands with the giant or the chopper. And the muscle that helps me extend the shoulder here is attached to the shoulder blade and then comes and attaches to the ribs. And where it attaches to the ribs, it has like a serrated edge. So we call it anterior serratus. So this is the extension of the shoulder and chopping for lung meridian and anterior serratus muscle. And the very last one, we started here covering up like with a fig leaf on supraspinatus. And then the last one, we're going to use this tensor part of the tensor fascia lata muscle, which in Touch for Health we just call fascia lata. And this little muscle on the hip is going to help us rotate the foot in. So I'm covering the toes by rotating the foot in. Then I'm going to bring my leg up and out 45 degrees and push it back down and in. So that's the range of motion for the fascia lata muscle, or tensor fascia lata muscle. The fascia lata means fascia being the thin covering and lata on the sides of the legs. So there's a tensor muscular part here on the hips and then thin band covering and coming down below the knees. That's where the muscle is. And then we do this range of motion to cover the toes. First rotate in to cover the toes, bring the leg up and out, and push back down and in to cover the toes again. Meridian related to fascia lata is the large intestine. And fascia lata sounds a little bit like fascia latte, so if you drink your cafe latte, it might help your large intestine flow, and then you got a fascia lata. So I hope you enjoyed your 14 muscle dance and a little bit of information about the related meridians. And just do that on a regular basis, and you'll find it's going to get your energy flowing. It's going to help balance all of your muscles and your posture, but it's also going to help the flow of all your meridians, so therefore energy to all the organs and your internal functioning. So enjoy your 14 muscle dance.